Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to cut your pine using a tenon saw. Now, before you can start cutting your material, you need to make sure that you have your cut line ready and marked out. Okay, so before you start cutting, you need to have this line marked out. You need to have a bench hook, and it needs to be secured to your bench using a G-clamp. Okay, and of course, you need a tenon saw. So let me tell you a little bit about the tenon saw, what it is, and how we use it. These little sharp guys at the bottom, these are called teeth. Okay, and they look a little bit like shark teeth. And the way the saw works is when you move it in a reciprocating motion, so you're moving it back and forth, the teeth cut into the material. So I'll go over the health and safety when we're ready to actually use it. But for now, let me tell you how we're going to put our material securely into the bench hook. So, move my tenon saw out of the way. We have this hatch line here, and this is where we're actually going to cut our material. So we need to line it up so that it is in line with our stock edge here. Okay, so it's quite a wide gap. So that means we've got room if we make a little bit of a mistake. So I've aimed for the middle of this area to run parallel along the side of the stock. So it's as if the line will just keep running like that. Okay. The next thing I'm going to discuss is how to actually keep your work nice and secure. Number one, nothing on wrists. So I'm going to take my watch off because I don't want it to get caught in anything. Okay. When we're holding our work secure, fingertips go on the top of the pine and your thumb is tucked underneath so your fingers go over a look, just like that. The reason being is if you have a hitchhiker's thumb and you are cutting with your saw and all of a sudden you slip, you could do yourself a little bit of an injury. So thumbs tucked in like turtles, not hitchhikers, turtles, okay? And fingertips on the top of the material. So you're pushing down, but you're also pushing the material into the stock. So if I try to wobble it, nope, it's not going to move. You're holding it really nice and secure. Some students do prefer to hold onto the stock as well. That's absolutely fine. It's whatever is comfortable for you, as long as your thumb is tucked out the way and your fingers are nowhere near this cut line. So what we're going to do next is we're going to use our saw to cut our line. Now, when you're holding onto a saw, I like to use something called the 3-1-1 method. So it goes 3-1-1. So if you have your hand a little bit like a gun, all right, and what you're going to do, those three fingers, they go through the handle of your saw, index finger points down the tool, and your thumb wraps around. 3-1-1. And by doing that, it means that we've got a lot of stability and support in our wrists, so we have total control over the saw and it's less likely to wobble. Okay, so that's the 3-1-1 method. I'm just going to move this slightly so we're back over the work area. Much better, excellent. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do with my saw is I'm going to line it up so that the blade is against the stock, and at the moment you can see that I'm holding the blade at an angle, so it's not actually going over my cut line. When you're cutting, always try and keep your saw blade nice and straight. Okay, so it runs parallel with this stock edge, and that will just help to give you a nice neat finish. So when I'm ready to start, I'm going to get the end teeth, so the teeth nearest the handle, and I'm going to place them at the end of my work, hold my work into position, not hitchhikers, turtle, thumb tucked in, and without putting much pressure, all I'm going to do is drag the saw backwards on the same spot 3 times. So not much pressure, I'm just going to go 1, use all the blade, not just a little bit, 2, final go, and 3, move it back, use all the blades, there we go. So remember, we don't blow sawdust, gently tap the work. And what I've done here is I've created a notch in the pine that's inside this hatched out section, okay, and that is now going to act as a guide for when I'm cutting using my tenon saw. So that's how we always begin. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to line up that notch against the stock again. And now this time what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring the saw back and I'm going to drag it, but this time I'm actually going to push forward. And whilst I'm working, the nose of my saw is going to be pointing towards my bench. So I'm not going to have the blade nice and straight against the material, against the wood. The nose is actually going to be tilted down. So all I'm doing, to begin with, is cutting into the edge. And as I'm cutting, I will gently lower the handle, so eventually I'll be cutting right across the whole material. Now you're probably scratching your head going, what is she on about? I'm going to show you what I mean. So, line it up. 3, 1, 1. 3, 1, 1. Not hitchhikers, turtle. Thumb tucked in. Line it up. Perfect. So I'm going to drag it back. My nose is pointing towards my bench. Look, I'm even going to cut into my bench a little bit. That's absolutely fine. These things happen. Okay. And we're going to pull back. This time, push forward. Pull back. Push forward. Back. Forward. And I'm slowly lowering my handle so that eventually look, I've now cut across the whole width of the material and not just the corner. Can you see that? There you go. I've gone across the whole width of the material. And now as I'm cutting, I'll get a nice even cut and a nice even finish. And you can also see, can you see how I've gone a little bit of an angle? I haven't gone a nice straight parallel line through the middle. This is why we have a nice wide cutting area, so that if you accidentally cut at an angle, you're absolutely fine, because eventually we can just sand away all the extra bits. So line it up and let's keep going. Couple of things to remember. Pushing really hard on the saw, pushing down really hard and going really fast will not cut it any quicker. All you're doing is risking yourself of hurting yourself, okay? You're producing more of a risk. To cut nice and quickly, all you want to do is go back and forth in a continuous motion and use all of the blade. Don't just cut on one spot like that. You'll be there for days. Use the whole blade, bring it back, push forwards. Not much pressure. It's a heavy saw. It's putting the pressure for you. Nice reciprocating motion. And try and keep your blade nice and straight. If you start to bend it, you will not be able to move it. Look, I'm pushing as hard as I can. It's shaking, but I can't move. It's because I've bent the blade. So just take it out, realign it. There we go. Keep it as straight as you can and give it another go. That's better, look. Continuous motion. Use all the blade. Not much pressure. And there we go. One cut piece of pine. Now remember, we do not blow the sawdust. We get dustpan and brush and we sweep it onto the floor. And that's how you cut your pine material.